The lead article in the Saturday Kansas City Star was about our bishop and our diocese, and that article went on for over 2 full pages in the Kansas City Star, indicating that both our bishop and our diocese, as a corporate entity, have been indicted by the Jackson County prosecutor for failing to report the actions of one Father Sean Radigan that were done when he was at St. Patrick's as pastor, St. Patrick's north of the river, as pastor of the parish and the school, and that further investigations indicate that these actions have been going on for at least since he was at St. Mary's, in St. Joseph, at St. Joseph's at Easton, and that they continued after he was removed as pastor from St. Pat's. The laws of the state of Missouri, I think the article indicated, going back to 1975, makes all ordained ministers mandated reporters, bringing us together with all professionals in many, many professions in education and healthcare and social work and the like, that all those who have responsibility over children and over vulnerable adults, that we are all mandated reporters when there's any suspicion of abuse to any child. And Missouri is only one of 26 states that has that, which I found an indictment in and of itself. All states should have that, all of us who are ordained, because we are responsible in whatever capacity we're serving to be mandated reporters. So the indictment is that the bishop, in his position as bishop of a diocese, and as according to canon law, he is the sole supervisor of every priest in the diocese. So no matter what other employees that are within the system, within the chancery, within the system of the diocese, the institution of the diocese, and even though he may hire other people to do certain things, that according to the Code of Canon Law, that he is the sole supervisor of every priest. And so he is the one who is the mandated reporter for the behavior of priests and responsible for that. And that also under the laws of the state of Missouri, that the diocese is a single corporation. And so as a corporate entity, is responsible for how children are treated in any way, shape, or form within that entity, as parishes, schools, and all of that. So the Jackson County prosecutor determined that that the institution failed, and that the one in charge of the institution has failed, and thus culpable under law. The article concluded with a public statement by Bishop Finn and his lawyers that he was entering a plea of not guilty for the diocese and for himself, and went on to enumerate all the things that he has done to make children safer in this diocese after the arrest of Father Sean Radigan this last May, I believe. And so kind of put that forth as in his defense and in the defense of the diocese. Even though the charges have to do with everything that he and the diocese did and did not do for an entire year prior. to the arrest of Father Sean Radigan. And then he made an appeal to the priests and the people of the diocese to support him in this stance of being not guilty. In conscience, I cannot do that. I cannot support that claim. I believe that the actions and inactions, as they have been enumerated rather clearly and in detail through a variety of forms of media, clearly indicate that what we did and what we did not do was wrong, and that it allowed a situation that was wrong to begin with to continue, and to continue to put children at risk. So I think we have, the institution has not followed the law, and our bishop has not followed the law as the law is stated and as is mandated. Now, a week or so ago, I made a promise from this pulpit, and you have to be careful about promises you make from a pulpit. Amen. You know, really. I may not be the most totally, completely truthful person on earth, but when it comes from the pulpit, I am a mandated truth teller, okay? By God. All right? Mandated promise keeper by God. Is that I would always preach good news from the pulpit. All right? So, fortunately, since I read this article yesterday morning, that has been on my mind, is that good news must be preached from the pulpit. Okay. The good news that I see is in the state of Missouri, we have those laws and those protections. And in the state of Missouri, we have county prosecutors who enforce those laws, no matter who it is and no matter what institution it is. Amen? That is good news. And if this can serve to make other states and other county prosecutors have those laws and enforce those laws, no matter who and no matter what institution, then more and more children and vulnerable adults will be safe. Amen? That is good news. The other good news I saw, and the other good news I have been seeing for months since all of this came forth, and I'm close to a whole group of principals in our diocese, and they have become very, very proactive in organizing themselves and organizing with the diocesan school office as to what can they do and what can the diocesan school office do to make sure that in all of our institutions that this never ever happens again, and that all of our children are safe in every way, shape, or form. And so there has been some very serious raising of awareness as to doing our job as completely and as competently and morally as possible. So that is good news. It mentioned in the article that this is the first time in the history of the United States of America that a Roman Catholic bishop has been charged with this charge. Okay? There is good news in that, I believe, in the sense that it is a wake-up call, a very clear, stark, harsh wake-up call to every bishop in the United States, present and future, is that you will be held accountable for doing your job, and your job is stated that you are supervising every priest under your diocese. That needs to happen, has been needed to happen for a long time, and it is happening now. Sometimes when the church fails, and those in charge of the church fail, sometimes you have to look elsewhere for the good news, and to other responsible, competent people who have been working very hard for decades to make the children and vulnerable adults in this country a whole lot safer. And hopefully that can extend to the children and vulnerable adults globally. There is a verse which I always turn to when I'm at a loss, and particularly when I have to stand up at a pulpit and preach good news, no matter what. And that is the Romans 8:28, which in my favorite translation reads thus: we know that all things, we know that God makes all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to God's decree. Let me repeat. We know that God makes all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to God's decree. The more I remind myself of that, and the more I challenge my faith to believe that, and the more I bring that verse to things that happen that I have to deal with one way or another, the more I can find the hand and the plan of God in the midst of that. May not find it right away. May not ease the pain right away. There's no magic pill that you could just take and all this will disappear. It does not. But in the midst of this, we can take the attitude and the actions and the being together as people of faith who affirm the justice of our system and who affirm the God to whom we must render everything that is God's. And Jesus is the way to show us that and to empower that. So it is good news that we move from pulpit to altar. Let us stand.